वेलकम टू एग्रीनोवा। तो आज का हमारा टॉपिक इम्पैक्ट ऑन हाई यील्डिंग एंड शॉर्ट ड्यूरेशन वैरायटीज। ये हमारी PYQ सीरीज का 3rd लेक्चर है। ओके, तो आगे बढ़ते हैं, देखते हैं इस टॉपिक पर कौन से PYQs पूछे गए हैं। सो द फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन इन 2023 IFOS एग्जाम, दैट इज क्रॉप डाइवर्सिफिकेशन। ये तो हमने पिछले लेक्चर्स में देख लिया क्रॉप डाइवर्सिफिकेशन क्या है। सो for now we have to neglect this. Then next we have to discuss the contribution of high yielding short duration varieties in crop intensification and crop diversification. So focus on the keywords, that contribution of high yielding and short duration varieties, high yielding short duration varieties. Okay, then next discuss the reason for food grain surplus. रीजंस बताने हैं फूड ग्रेन सरप्लस के, और फूड ग्रेन प्रोडक्शन एंड कंजम्पशन ट्रेंड्स इन इंडिया, ये 2019 में पूछा है। इस क्वेश्चन में डायरेक्टली हाई यील्डिंग या शॉर्ट ड्यूरेशन वैरायटी का कोई मेंशन नहीं है, पर दिस इज द टॉपिक विच इज रिलेटेड टू द अबाउ कंसेप्ट्स, सो आई हैव टेकन हियर. So next, in 2018 they asked the role of the same high yielding varieties to meet the national security. So majorly role देखा, then contribution, they both are the same. Next, the physiological effect of low temperature on seed germination and what are their remedies. So क्या है physiological effect? जैसे कि मेटाबॉलिक एक्टिविटीज रिड्यूस होती है, या फिर डिलेड न्यूट्रिएंट इनटेक, या फिर हार्मोनल बैलेंस इम्बैलेंस. ओके, लेट्स सी इन फॉर द लेक्चर. सो उसके बाद इम्पैक्ट, दे आस्क impact of short duration and long duration varieties in 2014. The next, specifically green revolution क्यों? क्योंकि green revolution is linked to high yielding and short duration varieties. So what is green revolution and its after effect on crop production? So green revolution majorly happened in 1965, 64, 65 around. So till 2000. Why 2000? Because the question was asked in 2000. So till 2000, so what is its effect of crop production or on crop production? So how we can make gray areas green to meet the challenges? Gray areas मतलब जो uncultivated areas है वो हम green कैसे कर सकते हैं, and what are the challenges and how to meet the challenges of food requirement or food security. Because as we know, India is the first population holder. So with the increasing population, we have to increase the food requirement. So let's see. First, quickly go through the overview of the lecture. So what we have to see first, it is first we have to go through introduction and definition. The next, green revolution. I have just made the crisp of the questions and the related topics we should cover. The next, what are the characteristic advantages and disadvantages of the high yielding and short duration varieties or long duration varieties. The next, the impact, how high yield varieties and short duration varieties drive cropping pattern shift into different regions of India. The next, causes behind the shift, why this shift happens, and the positive and negative impacts of short duration and long duration varieties. Okay, so just the overview. Let's go to the next slide. So first, let's see what are the high duration varieties. So they are commonly referred as crop strains. They are commonly known as crop strains, developed through intensive breeding and genetic selection process. So, what are the high yielding varieties? They are crop strains developed through intensive breeding and genetic selection process. These varieties are specifically engineered by achieving significantly higher yield compared to traditional. So, these varieties are basically engineered for higher yield as a component against traditional varieties, majorly focus on yield as a parameter. So, short duration varieties are the varieties whose total growing season, means sowing to harvest time period, is substantially shorter of around 90 to 110 days. So majorly, what is the benefit of the short duration varieties? We can sow majorly 4 to 5 crops a year rather than sowing 3 or 2 crops a year. So it increases the productivity and diversification. What are the long duration varieties? Varieties which are having longer maturity duration, generally extending beyond 150 to 160 days, occupying the field for the full season. So it's just the opposite. So let's see about the high yielding varieties which were majorly used in the Green Revolution. With the changing time, the UPSC may ask for the Green Revolution 2.0, how it can be achieved. So what are the aims or the achievement through which, what are the targets through which we can achieve Green Revolution 2.0? We'll see after this the basic concept. So how high yielding varieties definition is linked to Green Revolution. Let's see. High yielding varieties are improved crop varieties which majorly focus on yield potential, as it has greater response to the inputs. Inputs means fertilizers, manures, insecticides, fungicides, and also have shorter maturity. Okay, the Green Revolution 1965. So we know the father of Green Revolution in India is M.S. Swaminathan. It's for India. So for the world, it's Norman Borlaug. Okay. So let me tell you the first context of the Green Revolution, that is why Green Revolution started in 1960s. So as we know, India was just came out from the British rule and we were food insufficient. And also high import dependent from other countries like USA. And also resisting with the high population crisis. With the natural calamities like Bengal famine. So there was a need of the hour to develop high yielding varieties, as India wanted to become self-sufficient in terms of food grain and to supply the food for its population. So let's see the positives and negatives of the Green Revolution or the effects of Green Revolution. So due to Green Revolution, first let's see high yielding varieties we majorly use that were IR8 in rice, Lerma Rosso in wheat. These were the majorly used varieties of rice and wheat. The major region was Punjab, Haryana, and some parts of UP. So these were the major areas affected due to Green Revolution. So let's see the positives. Due to the Green Revolution, our food grain production rose dramatically. Here we can see wheat output of India increased from 12 million tons to 115 million tons. It is more 100 million tons more. Okay. So next is we became self-sufficient because we were highly dependent for PL480 wheat from USA. So we know that it was bad quality of wheat they provided us. Next, due to Green Revolution, the farmers' income was increased and also got marketable surplus. And we were focused toward commercial farming due to increase in production. The next we also strengthen our agriculture research in developing new varieties which are high yield and also have short durations, also can resist to major pests and diseases. Okay, let's see the negatives. The major negative effect was we skewed our cropping pattern because the farmers first use the land for diversification of crops. Later, due to Green Revolution, the farmer majorly focused on wheat and rice because the varieties were possible to the farmers or the seeds were available and also the government support. So they replaced wheat, rice, replaced pulse, oilseeds and coarse cereals. We know the affected major region that were Punjab, Haryana and Western UP. This caused regional imbalance in terms of productivity, we can say, and also socio-economic factor. That is, the farmers became very rich in the region. The negative impact was due to high yielding varieties, it needed high intensive use of inputs, which can be the water, which depleted the groundwater source, and also the soil nutrient imbalance due to high intensive use of fertilizers. The next, it caused environmental loss, and also still stubble burning is the major problem in that region, which causes pollution and indirectly or directly impacts the human and the environment. Okay, let's see in short about the concluding statement which we can give about high yielding varieties. That is, the high yielding varieties is the cornerstone of the Green Revolution, which delivering the food security and rural transformation, but also leading to ecological stress, monoculture, that is, we focus on commercial farming and dependence on monoculture dependence, necessitating a shift today towards climate smart and सस्टेनेबल हाई यील्डिंग वैरायटी. मतलब ठीक है, अच्छा हुआ हाई यील्डिंग वैरायटीज़ एक बेहतर साबित हुआ ग्रीन रिवॉल्यूशन में, जिससे हम फूड सिक्योर बने, फार्मर्स की लाइफ ट्रांसफॉर्म हो गई, पर इसकी वजह से इकोलॉजिकल स्ट्रेस आ गया, एनवायरमेंटल इम्पैक्ट आ गया. वी शिफ्टेड टू commercial farming, but the necessity for today was or is climate smart farming, that is the Green Revolution 2.0. Sustainable high yielding varieties means we must use low inputs, but the output must not change. That is through biofortified or stress tolerant varieties. So let's see the flow chart in a fast manner. What are the components of Green Revolution? High yielding varieties, high irrigation, high use of chemical fertilizers, which impacted rural development, and also the farmers got the agriculture credit, which consolidated of land holding, use of insecticide and pesticide were also high. So now see the advantages and disadvantages of high yielding varieties. Let's see first the advantages of high yielding varieties. The first advantage we can mention that yes, it increased productivity 2 to 3 times than traditional varieties. Here we can give the data which we mentioned above, that is wheat production. First it was 12 metric tons in 1965. Later in 2024-25 we gained or projected towards 115 metric tons. Okay, your statement should support data or the fact. So the next positive impact or the advantage of high yielding varieties was cropping intensity, because the varieties were short duration, which allowed multiple cropping in a year. So we can give the example of rice, potato and groundnut, or cowpea. So next, we also became food secure and self-sufficient in terms of food production. I'm here just writing the keywords. You elaborate with the statements. So we became self-sufficient in terms of food grain, and we were able to maintain buffer stock. We know buffer stock, that is the buffer stock refers to the stock which is maintained, or a surplus production maintained by the government of India to deal with the crisis such as famine or drought like conditions. So due to the maintenance of buffer stock, we ended the import dependence. Okay, for example, PL 480 which we imported during our famine conditions. So it also increased the income and employment of the farmer and the local livelihood, because it increased marketable surplus. And also supported agro industries, due to which the region of Punjab, Haryana and western UP became prosperous. Next, adaptation potential. So what do you mean by adaptation potential? It refers to farming system capacity to adjust to specific climate or the conditions or to the practices, technologies to maintain its productivity, profitability. Okay, so the new high yielding varieties were stress tolerant. Stress means drought, heat, or salinity like conditions. So ICR played the major role in developing the tolerant varieties of rice and wheat. And here we can write about the adaptation potential for Green Revolution 2.0, that is biofortified varieties is the need of the hour, which can be the major component of Green Revolution 2.0. So now let's go to the disadvantages of the high yielding varieties. First, majorly we can see the disadvantage, that is resource intensive. It requires timely irrigation, means it consumes electricity, fertilizers, it needs money, or any pesticide, insecticides. So it is very much resource intensive, and it due to the high irrigation. Now in the recent years, the region is facing with groundwater declines and creation of dark zones. So what is the dark zone? Dark zone means the recharge rate exceeds usage rate. Okay, the recharge rate exceeds usage rate, so it becomes in negative. Therefore we call it a dark zone. The next major disadvantage or the problem is we shifted our cultivation to the monoculture as we focused on commercial farming, due to which impacted our cropping pattern in the region, which gain momentum towards the crops such as wheat and rice, displacing pulses, oilseeds, millets. Next, due to this, we can see the region imbalance because the benefits were concentrated to the major regions, which were having the capacity of irrigation, and the other regions, that is the dryland area, which were monsoon dependent, lagged behind for the development. So next, the ecological stress. The ecological stress in terms of nutrient depletion, or the major problem of stubble burning, which is still persistent in the region, which impacted environment and human. Also we can say nutrition depletion means soil fertility reduction. Due to high intense use of fertilizer in the field. The next socio-economic effect means the small landholders or the small landholding farmers burdened due to the high input cost. And the second socio-economic effect, we can see that it caused labor displacement. As we know, the region was focused on commercial farming, and we know we can use mechanization in commercial farming, which reduce the labor dependence of the crop. So the labor tend to migrate in eastern regions of India for work. So let's see how high yielding varieties and short duration varieties drive cropping pattern shifts. I have differentiated into the three columns, that is the mechanism of change, how high yielding or short duration varieties cause it, means how these varieties cause the mechanism to change, and the example of the mechanism or the region affected. The first mechanism we can talk about, that is, we can say increase cropping intensity, or we change to the multiple cropping system. So how these varieties cause effect on the change of the mechanism. So due to this, the shorter cycle allows 2 to 3 crops to grow on the same land. Here we can give the example, that is in the Indo-Gangetic land or the area, we can see Boro rice, then timely sown wheat, and then again second crop as wheat. So in enhance our cropping pattern through multiple cropping. So let's see the next change or the mechanism we observed. You can see that we are writing the same advantages here as the mechanism change. So by this way we can shape our answer in the time of exam hall or at the time of exam. So next it is crop substitution through diversify cropping to monocropping. Okay, so high yielding varieties. So why monocropping? Because high yielding varieties gain more remuneration, or it is the more remunerative crop, or we can say it is easy to manage as we can follow mechanization in the field. So we can here give the example of Haryana, Punjab. The region changed from its millet or other oilseed like cropping pattern to wheat rice system. So the next third we can talk about, that is input intensification. So the varieties need or it respond to fertilizers which were used in high quantity, high use of water, pesticides. We can give here example of North Indian region, that is we can see the farmer use majorly nitrogen, that is urea, in the rice field without any quantity knowledge. You can also see majorly do flood irrigation. So by this way we can write all these mechanism, causes and examples. Now let's go forward to the causes behind the shift. Why this shift happened? First we can talk about that the major technological change. That is, the universities or the research stations release and promoted high yielding varieties or the short duration varieties. Majorly we can give the example of agriculture, Indian Council of Agriculture Research, or the state agriculture universities. The second we can talk about, that is input subsidies and procurement policies. That is, the government assured the rate of MSP for the farmers and also assured the procurement for specific crop, that is wheat and rice, which created bias for pulses or other cereals. So next, the third we can talk about, that is irrigation expansion, because availability of the resources. Next we can say that the farmers got the assured market access and commercialization of agriculture was possible. We can also say that we resisted against the climate and the risk, also managed the both through short duration varieties to escape terminal heat, that is the heat during the harvesting time or the maturity period. So let's see the government policies and implications of the high yielding varieties or the green revolution, or let's give the way forward to the topic. That is, first we can say the government can rebalance MSP criteria or the procurement criteria to promote crop diversification through millets, pulses, and oilseeds. So we know the major problems it created bias among all these. So government must rebalance the MSP criteria. The next, intensive to the climate smart or short duration varieties. So the government must provide incentives for the farmers which opt the climate smart farming. So the resources are not wasted. We can also strengthen the crop insurance and market linkages. Next, we can also talk about that the small landholding farmers can make available, the government can make them available credits for inputs through various schemes for inputs and mechanization. Or they can hire services to the farmers to avoid displacement. So we have covered whatever it is required for the topic. So let's see or quickly overview about the questions asked. So contribution of high yielding varieties. We know contribution that basically we have to write here the advantages, that is productivity, high cropping intensity. Then this made India food secure, also generated income, employment. So by this way we have to write all this. The next, we have to also write for the short duration varieties in terms of crop intensification and diversification. So here again we can write the reasons for grain surplus, because the duration, short duration and high productivity. So by this way, generating through the key points which I mentioned in the slides, we have to use the same points and generate statement based on data to mention in the exam. So describe food grain production and consumption trends. So this is not the static question, it is linked to the current. So please do refer the agriculture survey of the recent year. So next, here we have to write the rules, that is the same. What did high yielding varieties do to meet the global security? Okay. Next, we have to write the impact of short duration varieties. I think I did not mention this in the video. So let's see in short, that is first the impact of short duration varieties, that is it causes quick germination or seed establishment. Okay, then they also escaped the terminal heat. It also enhanced the metabolic activity of the plant, which directly affected the risk and yield. So by this way the farmer reduced the risk and also increased the yield and gained income. So by this way you can write about the long duration varieties using your general knowledge of agriculture. So the green revolution, we had seen the green revolution and its after effect, that is the effect on environment, soil, human. Then how can we make the area green, grey to green, that is from uncultivable land to cultivable. That is through technologies or machineries, using research knowledge, developing high yielding varieties, stress tolerant varieties, through diversification or using of millets like crop which are less water requirement crops. So by this way we can increase the food requirement as per our population increases. So here for today, thank you for watching the lecture. So meet you in the next PYQ series.